Welcome, people. This is Arlene J. Ramsey, CEO and founder of Everyone Let's Talk, your favorite self-wealth mentor. I am also the CEO and founder of Mediators Medium. I am now your favorite civil, family, and divorce court mediator in the state of New Jersey, serving over 6 counties in the state of New Jersey. Pour in. Let's talk about this phenomenon. And I need to check to see if the camera that is working is the webcam that I connected or my laptop camera. So let me. It seems like the webcam is not working. It says I don't have access to this feature. I'm not sure why, but I have a webcam connected and it is not showing. Well, anyway, it is not working. Not sure why, because I checked it earlier, but I'll give you all some time to chime on in while I pour myself a glass of, you guessed it, Saratoga water. Okay, I am annoyed. Why does not? Uh, hmm. You know why don't I have access to webcam feature? So I'll give you all a few seconds and let me see why isn't that happening. Let's see. Okay. Next live I do, I'll make some corrections. All right. So we're now 3 minutes in. Now let's dive into this topic of over 300,000 Indigenous or African American women have been fired or let go from their jobs. However, we want to word that. I've recorded this segment before, but then I accidentally deleted it. So now I'm here recording it again, right? Because this is something that needs to be discussed. Um, I am noticing that many content creators, and not just content creators, people in general, when speaking about this massive unemployment, a lot of things are being blamed on Trump. People are speaking as if Black women are now witnessing or experiencing injustices on their job. Now, some of you may question, why is it that it seems like I'm speaking up for this administration or I'm speaking in this way when 300,000 Black women have been released from their jobs at one time? I get it. But the importance of that is that when we tend to see things in the way that we are seeing it now and speaking things in the way that we are speaking it now, that adds on more to our anxiety. And we tend to have a tunnel vision or tunnel view, short view on this dynamic, right? And in that, there's going to be a concentrated effort concentrated, let's say, focus on what's happening now, and that this is something that is happening now, making how you feel and making the injustice seem greater than what it is, right? I left my career back in 2010. For those of you who've known me, you know that I was a project manager in freight forwarding. Over 13 years, great job, great pay. I've experienced many injustices on the job. That is part of the reason why I left my career in 2010. We are now in 2026. I left in 2010. And I didn't just experience those injustices in 2010 when I left. It has been going on prior to that, right? So it is imperative. And I was not the only person or the only one, let me not say the only person of color. From my experience, I was the only Black woman who've experienced this type of injustice in many of the jobs that I were at, right? You have had women from various backgrounds who've experienced injustices on the job for many different reasons, right? So it's imperative that we understand the reason why women have been experiencing these things on their jobs, right? And this will also tie in as to why I say we are not ready for a matriarchal system and a matriarchal style leadership whatsoever. If you're a woman that is voluptuous or have an hourglass figure or have a nice shape and is attractive, dress well, has a nice personality, along with being educated, a great problem solver, just great at what you do at your job. If you're a superstar at your job, you will be targeted, and it doesn't matter what color you are. You will be targeted, right? If you look at, I'm not sure if many of you connected the dots, but many women have been opting out of corporate jobs and going into trucking and construction and doing jobs that are very physical and hands on. And that has been a problem between women and men, where men are saying that women think that they can do men jobs. And women are responding by saying that we can do anything men can do. And one of the things that I would say is that I wish women would tell the truth, right? Women are going into those jobs not to compete with men, but they are being pushed out of their jobs, and they need income. Many women are single, they're single and they're taking care of their children and family by themselves. Their income is the only thing that's holding up their family. They cannot afford to be without jobs. Therefore, a lot of women, if you look at what truckers look like, at what construction workers look like, at what any tradesperson looked like back in the day, trades and truckings and jobs of that magnitude were solely done by men. Now we're seeing women doing these types of jobs, and not just indigenous women, women of all nationalities and creeds. Now Caucasian women oftentimes, when they get pushed out of their jobs, they are stay-at-home moms. They are wives because their husband make enough money to take care of the family. But still in all, if you have had a conversation with these people, you would know that that wasn't their first option. Their first option was to go in and, have 9 to 5 like everybody else and contribute to their household, pay the bills, take care of themselves, and be a productive person in their society. However, the people that are in leadership, in all aspects of leadership, have been ruining things for people all throughout this nation, especially people who are superstars at what they do, right? We are definitely the people that are singled and targeted and pushed out of corporations. So it's imperative to understand that This is not something that is happening because Trump is in office. Now, because Trump is in office, it has happened to this magnitude where we see mass unemployment. But now let's look at this, right? Trump has unemployed massive federal employees for the different positions that he has unemployed them. I'm not sure if this is something that AI is going to take over. What we also have to look at is that within our community, I remember being a child and remember these conversations that were had amongst those of us in the Black community, where we're telling each other the types of jobs to go into, jobs that will offer security. You weren't told to go in and be a professor at a college, or go work at a grocery store, or go own a food chain. We were told to go into those federal jobs where you have to take Secret Service tests to get in, right? We were told to go into the post office. We were told to go get federal jobs, specifically federal jobs. We were told that. And there was a reason why we were told that, because it offered job security. So, in that, that is why you see an influx or so many African American slash indigenous women in those positions, right? So these are things that we've discussed amongst us. And it has worked for us for how many years? Decades. We have not had to be concerned about our jobs. If you look at the post office, who are working in the post offices, who are having these particular government jobs, right? So it's imperative that we understand that, and understand that these positions that women have been let go from, have they been refilled? At this moment, they haven't been refilled. So it's imperative that we remember that. Now, why this is important is, like I said again, we want to ensure that we lessen our anxiety, because remember, when you are depressed, anxious, you're not in a good headspace, that also weakens our immune system. And a weakened immune system leaves us easily subjected to becoming sick with any ailment, hence making things worse for us. We don't need to make life harder than life is already is. We have to learn to make life easy. Make it easy on yourselves. We have to learn that, or we should learn that. It's imperative to learn that, right? Therefore, you keep your health intact, you keep yourself looking youthful while you tackle what's coming at you, right? So, the other thing that I wanted to focus on is, like I said again, women were being pushed out of the jobs. All right, going back to these federal jobs, federal employees were laid off. Now, the the jobs that Black women are speaking about now, content creators are speaking about now, as far as being let go of their jobs, these are not federal jobs. These are regular corporations. And it leaves me to discuss DEI. Now, DEI has been in place since the 60s or before the 60s, right? But I never recalled DEI being a topic of discussion. Like when I was working, I never heard DEI. Although I can say I benefited from it because of the Civil Rights Act, but I've never heard diversity, equity, and inclusion. We didn't start hearing DEI until maybe 2018 or so, or a little before 2018. And I'm not sure why started to become a topic of discussion, right? So DEI became a slogan, and people started to get leadership roles directly connected to DEI. So a DEI consultant, anything connected to DEI, that was a leadership role, managerial position, which means that you are easily up for making six figures off top. You didn't really have to work hard or work for many years to gain six figures, all contingent upon the tier of the managerial position you were at, right? I question these corporations that are letting go African American slash Indigenous women now, right, from their jobs. And these women did not have, or do not have, or aren't expressing that they have DEI positions, but they're being let go from their jobs. And it tells me this, right? And I say again, we have to learn to not give people so much credit, or credit that they haven't earned in any facet or any areas of their lives. But I think we give people that are outside of our race too much credit, as if they have a level of intelligence or awareness that we don't have. And I'm saying this to say DEI got a lot of people fooled. When we saw the stats, the federal stats of who profited most by DEI positions or DEI hires, we learned that they were white women. We've learned that the LGBTQ community also profit, I think, second for DEI. However, the African American community, we were, six or seven on the list. We weren't the top of the list of those who were, benefited by DEI, because many people, when they hear DEI, you automatically think that this was something that made things easier for Black people, especially because it was implemented within the Civil Rights Act, right? And we all know that Black people fought for civil rights. Now, that is something that specifically benefited African Americans and his people, right? And others who were people of color began to benefit by the Civil Rights Act, but that was directly connected to us. However, DEI isn't. Diversity, equity, and inclusion of Black people, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. It means everyone who is different. So what we need to be looking at is just a melting pot, just like our society is. That's all DEI means when I think about DEI. But I think these corporations thought that DEI to them meant letting, Black people, especially being that this 300,000 people that Trump laid off were Black women. So now you have companies like Target who have gotten federal dollars for a DEI program. Now, I understand that the Trump administration says that any company that gets federal funding that continues a DEI program is going to lose their funding. Okay, I understand that. So my question is, they couldn't find another way to keep that same type of program under a different premise, giving it a different title, and not having to lay off Indigenous people and still keep their funding, or just say, fine, I don't have to have the funding, but I'll continue this partnership, right? And so it speaks volumes to the fact that many people are in positions of leadership that are not complex thinkers, not creative thinkers, are not good problem solvers. So you're there, and what comes out of the White House, you're just going to follow suit without appropriate questioning or pushback, and not pushback in the sense of just wanting to be contrarian, but pushback in the sense of how can you make a situation that seems to be negative positive. It seems like there's not enough. Who's in leadership that does that? Who? Or maybe I'm thinking that way because I'm my level one neurodivergence, so I just don't think like that. Like a situation like that comes to me, I would try to find ways on how to integrate the situation without it becoming a negative or putting people who need to take care of themselves at a disadvantage, right? So we see that Target has cut their DEI program, And my thing is this: you cut the program, which means you're not getting funded anyway. And so, and you sever the partnerships with the people that you, the black businesses that you were in partnership with. That doesn't make sense to me, right? But okay, it could very well mean, does the are these products, you know, bringing in revenue, and what type of revenue are these products bringing in? What type of products are these? My thing is this: if you order these products and all of them sell out, but still it doesn't bring in as much revenue as what your other products bring in, it's good, because you have products sitting on your shelves and people are not buying it. Now, if you have products on your shelves and they're not selling out, then that's a problem, right? And I can understand that. Now, is that something, a reason to just sever the DEI program? Or should there be a conversation with that business owner, letting them know the statistics and probably giving them some pushback on maybe what they can do to improve on their product, right? I just just don't know, right? The other thing is this: these companies thinking that that's what DEI means, and that it's okay to just let go of Indigenous people because DEI is no longer something that companies will have a check mark against, right? Because let's be for real. Investors buy your stock contingent upon how your company is compliant with governmental, federal rules and regulations, right? So if your company is in alignment with what federal rules and regulations say, you look good on paper. Hence, investors and will buy into your stock, your business stock. So with this issue with DEI, companies seem to no longer going to be held accountable for having DEI representation, and it seems as if the black women are paying the price for it, right? Right? Um, Black women are overqualified. They're being let go. Listen, when I left my career in 2010, I, at one point, when the halfway home closed and I was no longer making money, I tried to get back into the working field, and I've been told left and right that I was overqualified. I couldn't get a job to save my life. That's part of the reason why I became stagnant on creating videos on YouTube, because I was basically homeless, bouncing from place to place. Because of course, you don't have a job, you're not making money, you can't pay bills, right? And then when we look at the cost of rent, people are charging 750 and up for just a bedroom. And when I mean just a bedroom, I'm saying this is a shared, like a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, which means that if you're renting that bedroom, you're sharing with two other people that you don't know, unless you're renting a space from with some people that you do know, and they say, hey, there's a room available, why don't you come take this room, grab, get up on it. Now you're sharing space with people you personally know. But outside of that, a lot of people are renting these rooms and they're living with people that they don't know, and that is a very uncomfortable feeling, to live with people that you don't know in the same environment. And it's so ridiculous that with what some people are paying, right? If you're renting a room, it is because you can't afford an apartment, no way, right? But with the prices of these rooms, it leaves these people, how do you, it's hard to save up for you even say, listen, I can rent here and put some dollars aside and save up until I can get an apartment. What are the odds that people are, that are renting rooms can eventually get an apartment off of that type of salary? So I understand how our sisters are feeling and thinking. But as I said previously, this is the perfect time to reinvent yourself, right? And I know it, many of you are going to say, well, Arlene, that's easier said than done. And I understand that I've had a head start because this is 2026. And as I've said before, I've left my career in 2010. And when trying to get back into the work environment, we're talking about 2017 or so, 2018. It was just crazy. I could not get a job. And I've been told I was overqualified. Listen, have been times that I broke down and cried. I never thought that I would see the day where I couldn't get a job. Right? Because we were told go to school, get that degree, get your certificate, get your education, make sure that you are a quality human being. So when the time comes for you to get a job, that job won't miss you, right? And I am definitely one of those women. So we all know that there's many of us that are in that lane. So we're confident that any place we go, we were getting a job. And it became something that was used against me. And now many of you are seeing that it is being used against you. I have an associate that told me he has a friend that works for some news channel, and everybody praised her. She was the best at what she did, right? And so apparently there was a Zoom meeting, and I don't know what her coworker told her, but he was a white man, and her response to him was something along the lines, "Well, you wouldn't. What did you say? You wouldn't want me to say that to your mother, would you?" And because of that, she was fired from her job, not reprimanded, not given a warning slip. Like she was just fired. Now, you know, okay, I would not have handled that situation in that way, right? I would have approached him, whatever it was that I don't know what was said. So I don't know. See, for me, that the other thing is having emotional intelligence and knowing that some things I really don't care to put my energy into and I won't respond to. But if it was something that I needed to respond to, I would not have said that. I would have said it in a different way. But I would have definitely responded to him, whether it was verbally or something in writing. However, what I wanted to point out is that she got fired for that, and she was the best at what she did. Never any slips, never any pips, never any of that. So I'm quite sure she didn't think that she would have gotten fired, right? So not only did she get fired, with her expertise and her resume, she could not get a job. She could not get a job. She cried and everything. And one of the things he told her is he, kind of referenced me. He said, well, listen, I know Arlene, was in that same situation and she's out here delivering groceries and things like that. You have a new car. You have an advantage. You have a new car. She doesn't. I suggest you put that new car to work and get with the gig economy until you can get a job. So at least you can keep some money in your pocket. Right? So we clearly understand that we are in this time where it is definitely seen that we are targeted, right? And let's keep it real. You have some people that think that they should be at the top of the food chain, right? People want the money, they want the position, and they want the money, although they don't have the skill set. And they don't care about not having the skill set. They just want the money so that they can live a lifestyle that they want to live. Are in the way with our overqualified selves, right? We can't make the, we didn't make the system. Like I said, it is time to, like I said, create our own systems and gatekeep, right? We have to survive. We can't just be here. We're just here and we're going to let this happen. And, you know, we're not going to be able to put food on our tables. What are you going to starve? What's going to happen? Right. So we're going to have to reinvent ourselves and gatekeep our systems. Um, a lot of nurses have lost their jobs, gotten fired. Hey, open our own practices and hire your sisters the other sisters that lost their jobs. It is a wonderful time to reinvent ourselves, create our own systems and gatekeep. Other than that, you're going to perish. Remember, the first law of nature is self preservation, right? Self preservation is the first law of nature. If we cannot preserve ourselves, we will perish. And remember, we have families to take care of aside from ourselves. That's just it. Remember that the United States of America is not a European country. Although it was taken over by European people and all of these systems and laws have been put in place by them, it is not a European country. We were here first, right? You have to remember that. And in that, do remember that this is our land. Do remember that we have a God given right to survive. We have a God given right to be able to take care of ourselves, right? No one, I don't care who it is, can create systems that says that we are not a people that is deserving of dignity, respect, deserving of a peaceful life, or deserving of having a way to be able to take care of ourselves. I think that's how I walk through life, right? That's how I walk through life. And when I tell you, I wasn't resentful, right? I wasn't resentful. And then I clearly understood it was at that time, in my time. Now I don't know how things are now, but when I was going through it, I learned that it was I can't even say a tri-state area thing. It was a this area thing, like if you were in Manhattan. Right? Here's why I say that. Before the pandemic in 2019, I moved to Poughkeepsie, New York. And would you know, with that same resume, I got a job? I got a job as a front desk receptionist at the hotel, at a hotel in Poughkeepsie, New York. But unfortunately, I told you I moved there in 2019, right before the pandemic. So when the pandemic happened, people started canceling their reservations and things like that. And eventually the hotel had to close. And so in that, I was back to square one, back without a job. But then again, I was going to get hired as a counselor at the Anderson Center for Autism. I still have my letter to this day. In 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, I have gotten a letter that labeled me as an essential. I had to be labeled as an essential employee and a counselor to work at the Anderson Center for Autism. But unfortunately, the place where I was staying, a person was uncomfortable that I would be going out into society to go work during a pandemic, and didn't know if I would bring COVID back when I go to, this center. And I don't know anybody in Poughkeepsie. I was asked that, do you think, the day before I was going to start, do you think that when you go to work tomorrow that you can have someplace else to go instead of coming back here, because we are unsure about COVID and we have small children here and we just don't want you to bring COVID back here. And so, and now, these were, one was a African American woman and one was a Dominican woman, right? So this is why I say again that this is not just what white women are doing to African American women. I've experienced this kind of thing with women, African American women, Latina women as well. Women who are insecure, who thinks that you are going to thrive where they know that they won't thrive, is going to do exactly what has been happening to overqualified Indigenous women in this country as we see today. This is what women do. Hence why I make it clear when I say that we do not need a matriarchal system. It's not going to work for us. We need a system that's community centered, not a matriarchal system. And we certainly don't need women, only mostly women in positions of leadership. That's not going to go over well for us, because as you see, a lot of these women, pay attention to also what's happening, sisters. A lot of you that are being let go and mistreated and experiencing injustices on your jobs, that is happening to you by other women. not men. It is other women that is doing these things to you, right? There was a research, something that I saw where it said that hmm, I'm going to have to come back to that. But about over 60% of Caucasian women voted for Trump, and those who voted for Trump were women who did not have college degrees. They had basic education. When doing the research, these women rather vote for Trump than to see another woman be successful. Because it is, again, that is a direct reflection and a mirror to the fact that they are not successful. So rather see another woman become successful, they would rather keep a white man, or put a white man in office that they know have committed crimes against humanity. So they've told us that he's done. Right. So, and this is not just a white woman thing, and it's really not, because they were they didn't have college degrees, right? How many women do you know that has had college degrees but are insecure when someone else walk in the room that is actually exceptional at what they do, right? So it's also imperative that you understand that this is what you're going to go through, and the plight for being an exceptional human being, or an exceptional at what you do, right? Because you don't have to be an exceptional human being, but when your work, if you're exceptional at what you do, this is the gripe that you're going to have to go through, right? So again, the solution for what we have now, and it's going to take time, right? So of course it's not overnight, but the solution is to reinvent ourselves, create our own systems, gatekeep our systems, and employ people who have suffered of this massive layoff, right? Now, the reason we have to gatekeep is because we know what happened with Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Rosewood, and so on and so forth. But we cannot continue to fret over what the system is doing to us. We have to make do. Take our children out of schools. The bullying and so on is out the roof. It has gotten worse than what it was years ago when I was talking about bullying. I published a book in 2019, Giving Resolve for Bullying. It has gotten worse, right? Take our children out of schools, homeschool our children. That will save you money. Grow our own foods, cook our own foods in home, these sorts of things, so that we can survive. We're not even talking about thriving yet. We're just talking about surviving and staying above the fray. But I implore us to move away from putting so much concentrated energy and effort onto Donald Trump. That is not working for us. And I want you also to know listen, you don't know what kind of person Trump is. You do know that there's some of us that alchemize energy. If a lot of people envy me and you're focusing all your energy on me, I'm going to use your energy for my greater good. I am not going to allow your negativity, what you're saying about me, how you're trying to assassinate my character and end my career and my goals. I am not going to allow that to cause me to end my own career and goals. I'm going to use your energy and alchemize it for myself. So with Donald Trump, the world is giving him too much energy to alchemize. We really are. So that's another thing to think about. Um, we've been educated enough. We don't have to continue to go on and get educated unless in our respective fields there's new information that we need to stay abreast of. Yes, but as far as new education, excuse me, unless you're going into a different field, but for the sake of it, no, no. And here's why I'm going to say no. Remember, back in the day, before they pushed college in front of us, many of these jobs we've done without education. We've had home economics in school. We've learned how to cook so many, I've learned how to sew and cook in my household. My grandmother taught me. but I there was, I still had home economics when I was in school, so I still sewed. There was a shop class where we learned how to make things out of wood. I made a nice thing that, a chest, a treasure chest to put my earrings and money and things in, and I've had that thing for years. I had it for years. I got rid of it after losing my sister and moving back into the family house, and I moved back into the family house in 2012. And I have made that treasure chest thing back when I was in the seventh grade in middle school. In 2012, I was 35 years old. I graduated from elementary school, middle school in 1990. I made that thing before then. So, and it's good. It still was great to this day. And I put my name was top of it. Still held up until the day and I only got rid of it because I just didn't want to come back home with so many things. I was just distraught. So many things I just let go. Right. And so I say this to say, as long as that treasure have lasted me, is as long as that skill lasts. The skill doesn't go anywhere, right? I can't remember when they started to regulate these skill sets and they made it something that you had to go to college for. And that is only because, they found a way to get themselves paid and, put people in debt to learn something that we were learning in school. So I say this to say to be very careful that we don't put ourselves in a loop to thinking that you're not of value if you're not going back to school. Look at what Trump did, and I can't even remember all of the subjects that he considered as, no longer you'll no longer be able to for. Most of those subject matters, black women and women in particular fill those positions. Why do you think that these types of jobs are not serious or important enough to obtain school loans, right? So when you focus on group economics, build with the people that you can build with, right? Because you can only have a community when you're building with people that have the same principles and like minds, not the same color, right? Just because you're indigenous slash African American doesn't mean that you can have a community with those people. And there's enough evidence, and we've talked about that enough to know that many of us have been betrayed by our own, right? What's the saying? All skin folk ain't kinfolk, right? And so it's imperative that we continue to connect those dots. These events are not isolated. It's all together and it's all in this system. But let's be smarter and more strategic about how we're doing things so that we're not jumping out of the pot into the fire, right? Be clear, right? So that's why I say remove our focus from Donald Trump and just look at how things has always been and where we're going as a people and as a society. Also, let's not forget that AI is also at play. A lot of people are losing their jobs also because of AI. AI can do these jobs. So it's imperative for you to also understand that maybe you need to learn how to program AI or, fix AI when it breaks down. The old jobs and the old way of doing things is almost obsolete for many jobs, right? Also, go and Google the types of jobs like right now. What are the kind of jobs? Hold on. What type of jobs can AI replace? So, the type of jobs that AI can replace, right? Office and administrative support, which means data entry clerks, receptionists, and administrative assistants, customer service jobs, media and content creation, finance and accounting, legal services that include paralegals and legal assistants, tech and software, finance and accounting, logistics and transportation. They put taxi drivers, rideshare drivers, and warehouse workers. That annoys me so much. I think that has a lot to do with that I come from the logistics world, and I do understand that there's great money. It's a great world, and I just don't like seeing the direction that it's going in. However, I don't know if you know that China is the first and only country to have a 24-hour automated warehouse system. I'm sorry, an automated port system. That means that once these vessels, the vessels dock at their ports, it is not human beings that are operating the machines to take the containers off of the vessel or put the containers on the vessel. It is fully AI and automated 24/7, right? Last year sometime, Port Newark, part of the strike that Port Newark was on was just to ensure that they don't start to implement AI structures at the port. And Port Newark wasn't the only to strike. I think there was a strike in LA as well, Los Angeles. So AI is becoming a thing. And so pretty soon we're going to start to see other people losing their jobs, right? Okay, so now let's look at what type of jobs AI can't replace. But the type of jobs that AI can't replace, hold on, are primarily those requiring deep human empathy, complex, unpredictable physical dexterity, high level creativity, and ethical judgment. Healthcare professionals, that's nurses, doctors, and therapists, are considered safe because their roles rely on empathy, trust, and nuanced human interaction. Skilled trades and technical jobs, that's your electricians, your plumbers, your carpenters, your mechanics. Education and training, that is teachers and coaches and creative and strategic roles. These are artists, writers, and high level strategists are difficult for AI to replicate as AI lacks genuine originality and the ability to formulate truly new concepts. Emergency response and social work. These are your firefighters, your police crisis negotiators, and social workers perform tasks that demand high empathy. Culinary and personal service roles. These are your chefs, your bartenders, hairstylists. You get what I'm saying? So I say all of this to say it's not doom and gloom and all is not done. Just make sure you understand what type of jobs that AI can replace and what type of jobs AI cannot replace, and see where you fit in. What kind of jobs are you fulfilling now? Or what type of jobs did you fulfill before you were replaced? And there's where you will understand that maybe it's not just that this is something that is just targeting Black women, but this is just targeting people, groups of people within a that hold a certain job title. And you may have to say to yourself that many of your job titles, you probably, fit the description of what AI can replace. And if you don't fit that description, maybe there were other women, other groups or categories of women who did fit that description. And being that being let go because of AI, they need to come into, they need to get different jobs. And, people are getting moved around and shuffled around, and understand that this world does not have a carte blanche door for Indigenous people to walk through. We have always had to create our own way. And in this time, day and age, we have to step up and rise to the occasion once again so that we can survive and then thrive. I hope that this live can be useful to you. And if you need any tips on how to meditate, on how to see the silver lining, just hit me up. My phone number is 973-855-2333. As a matter of fact, let me put it here. And my email. All right. Until next time, peace.